So the Guardian has got an item about the high numbers of people being infected and killed in Brazil. It says, as if you are in hell. Now the young bear the brunt of Brazil's COVID calamity. And there is a picture of a man called Miguel Castro, his wife Juliana, and their 20-month-old son Arthur. And the eye of the hurricane, in short columns, 365,000 people have died in Brazil so far. The second highest number of people who died, highest number in the world after the United States, and 66,000 people, Brazilians, died of COVID in March alone, this last month. And the Guardian is saying in April, that is this month, the figure of people dying in Brazil is expected to rise to 100,000 deaths. The number of Brazilian infant fatalities in 2000, an unusually high figure, that is 1,000. And in the US, 43 children died last year. That is a comparison of children, number of children who were killed by the virus. And next to that, on the next page in the Guardian, is page 40. It has a picture and the caption reads, a Libyan Coast Guard the caption reads, a Libyan Coast Guard officer stands guard of the coastal city of Zawiya in 2017, following the rescue of 147 people trying to reach Europe. And it says, So there are quite a few items about the COVID. Spreading in India. And like Brazil, India is also witnessing spread of the virus. And there is a very stupid piece byline to Jessica Algott. Now, Jessica Algott is a notorious kind of reactionary on The Guardian. So she's saying that Tory sleaze, Labour believes its attacks are cutting through. Now, there's a very lazy piece, and also the next one has got a one page which is the cabinet makers, that Tory ministers who found private sector jobs. And it has got a whole number of them. In the main paragraph, the beginning of that piece, David Cameron's lobbying efforts on behalf of his employer, Green Seal Capital, have shone a spotlight on the often lucrative corporate work on offer to former cabinet members and junior ministers with valuable experience of government and a bulging contacts book. While the former prime ministers overtures to ministers are unusual in that they prompted an unprecedented formal inquiry. There is nothing new about senior politicians taking private sector jobs after leaving office. Indeed, some of Cameron's closest allies and cabinet appointees have been among the most enthusiastic corporate job seekers. This Guardian piece is similar to the rest of the Guardian kind of narrative, which is accommodating the crooks and carefully avoiding any reference to the crimes that they have been committing. And there is no sign of the Guardian treating these crimes as crimes. Why is that significant? Because they are crimes. And the fact that billions of pounds have been transferred from the UK government to various donors to the Conservative Party under various kind of pretexts and excuses shows that the Conservatives have now come out as open robbers and looters and thieves of society and society's resources. And still there is no sign of the revival of the politically murdered Labour Party, politically murdered by Keir Starmer. So that's the national kind of or UK-wide central scene. What does it mean national scandal? What does it mean locally? I mean, in terms of looking at the corruption and criminality perpetrated by councillors and councils that are in the most direct contact with the local people. That is to say, local councils are 1,000 times more likely to affect the rights of the local people adversely if the local council concerned is corrupt, and local councils are corrupt. There is no forum, as I have been saying. There is no platform, there is no kind of certain way that exists in Britain whereby wrongdoing councillors and wrongdoing councils collectively and wrongdoing post holders in the councils can be automatically prosecuted and held to account for criminal behavior. And there is widespread absence of any evidence, of any awareness by the local councils and their supporters, their promoters, of the actually millions and millions of pounds being channeled through them into the wrong pockets, while the ordinary people who deserve the council services and support are being deprived. This is the norm. This is the norm locally, and this is the norm centrally about local government, local council, robbing the local community. So where do you begin? Every stage of the council's supposed area of service to the local community is compromised, neutralized, and made ineffective in terms of the, or so far as those services that are desperately and badly needed by the vulnerable and the most needy in the local population. So, for example, there is a thing called local government ombudsman. It is a completely unfit for purpose outfit. And the propensities on the part of the county councils, which in civil law terms, in the kind of torts, wrongs, civil wrongs, the propensities of these courts, and that is to say, the sitting so-called judges' propensities, are hostile to people getting any accountability from the wrongdoing councils and wrongdoing councillors. So the concept of care as owed to the local electors and the local community by the local council, that concept is not realized in practice. So where is the activity taking place that concerns the wrongdoings of the councils and by the councils? Answer is nowhere. This is the Banana Republic, the UK. And as evident in Tower Hamlets and in Tower Hamlets next door, Newham, it is absolutely nightmare experience if any member of the electors tries to get any answer from Newham Council or Tower Hamlets Council. Most of the electors, most of the community in each of these two boroughs, most of the people are in effect treated as strangers, as aliens, as permanently non-entitled. That is the conclusion. That's the description of the behavior of the council employees concerning any issue, any subject, any title. So in the case of Newham, for example, there is the case of Sarah Abdullah, and also the case of the mother whose infant's milk was featured in the news in November 2018 because she appeared before the United Nations Special Envoy on hardship and poverty. And because of that fact, the visiting envoy, United Nations envoy on poverty and distress and whatever, Philip Alston, but the details of that mother's experience at the hands of the lying Newham Council employees, the evidence of that mother's suffering, which she recounted before the United Nations envoy at that meeting held in the Barking Road, the evidence was distorted by Philip Alston himself, because contrary to what Amber Rudd, who succeeded Esther McVie as the Secretary of State, that is the cabinet minister for the department called DWP. DWP in our description is deprivation, want, and poverty creation. Amber Rudd said that Philip Alston was wrong to say anything that even remotely suggested that the UK central government was doing anything wrong against its victims, who were in the majority African origin or Asian origin. So when Philip Alston published his preliminary report, within the very short hours of Amber Rudd taking office in succession to Esther McVie, Amber Rudd, issued a very sharp statement of denial. Amber Rudd said that she rejected the assertion made by the Special Envoy Philip Alston. Now, Philip Alston, of course, replied later during 2019. But in his report, final report about the visit to the UK, Philip Alston severely diluted the findings and published what, in my opinion, I have told him that, bogus report. And Alston hasn't replied to my condemnation of him. I have sent him to Alston, that is, documents running into 200 or plus pages containing evidence of the corruption by Newham Council and the evidence of the corruption being pointed out to Newham Council by the campaigns that are involved. Campaigns, of course, centrally are coordinated by me. The description that the University of New York or New York University, where Alston is a faculty member in the law faculty, the promotional description they give of Philip Alston makes him come across as very well established. He has had quite a few posts as well. But that is, the description of him is artificial, completely made up, bogus. So the United Nations Secretary General appointed, it's a kind of bureaucratic kind of thing. It's not a campaigning post. The special rapporteur, that is special envoy on poverty. So where do people go? Where do people who are pushed into poverty in the UK go for relief against poverty that they didn't cause themselves but were pushed into? The House of Commons, when Amber Rudd made the statement rejecting the Philip Alston report, she made that statement within the hearing of other MPs who didn't really object to what she was saying, who didn't actually produce evidence to support what Philip Alston had said. Even in his footnotes, and the people who were present at the actual presentation of Philip Alston's final report, there were people from the Human Rights Watch being in the Human Rights Watch commented on one or two aspects of the report. But that's it. They didn't go any further. So what I'm saying is that although they are called special envoy and given access to the countries concerned, which the post holder visits or has visited, despite the fact that he has visited the Western European countries, members of parliament didn't challenge Amber Rudd when she rejected the very timid kind of presentation and the very timid contents of the Alston report. And nor did the so-called independent members of parliament, like Caroline Lucas. The history of the United Nations since its foundation is replete, stuffed full of these kind of tokenistic adventures that serve the purpose of the egotists and the narcissists in the United Nations, who want to see their pictures and their names promoted as if they are doing something. They are not doing the necessary thing. And we shall come to that report for a full-scale diagnosis later.